Greetings and grand risings. How you doing out there? We're very careful, if you've noticed. We're not that in love with seeing ourselves out here talking and having a whole lot to say, and definitely not in a Mercury retrograde or Mars retrograde or where we are. We're betwixt and between, just coming past that powerful dark moon this past weekend. But we felt like there was a time for catch up. There was a time to lay all the cards out on the table and just kind of maybe not come to any quick decisions, because that's never the thing to do in a Mercury retrograde, but laying out the cards of the information showing up in the room, the downloads. Yeah, that's kind of important. That's kind of important. So, from season to season, as they turn over the leaves now falling and changing, goodness, how I miss being in the mountains and seeing all that beauty. And I call it God's art studio. But I can imagine it from many, 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 many falls where we have been up and down and in and out of Asheville and the mountains thereabout. So we can imagine it. And that's what it feels like to us, just, edging into from that dark moon to this blue moon that happens to be on the All Hallows weekend, that happens to be on the All Souls weekend. I don't know about you, but the evolutions are big. I know when I rose and my eyes and my consciousness came into this new day, the first thing I heard was, things, they are a-changing. That's what a voice said to me, and I sat with a woman. They said, things, they are a-changing. And it was almost like, nope, the wagon is not standing still. Understand that that wheel is moving. How's it moving? You're not being crushed by that wheel, are you? You're not thrown under the bus, because I, for one, got a notice in various tribes that I work with. There's a lot of that going around. There's a lot of folks feeling like they're being thrown under the bus at this very moment of the Tower card really falling, and not only falling, but crashing. And that's not really such a bad thing. The other image I had real early when I was like, what should I do? Way down deep in myself, I'd be like, all right, if you want me to talk to the people, I will, but what should I say? I felt like Linda G, the Comanche, when she's shuffling the cards and she'll be asking her spirits, what do you want me to tell them? What do you want me to tell everybody? And they were like, try to give everyone the image of Humpty Dumpty really falling off the wall and shattering into 1,000 pieces, and not at all being upset by the broken pieces, not at all, kind of like taking the pieces of the puzzle out of the box, and you're so excited about the picture of the puzzle that you're not intimidated by 1,000 little pieces that you got to turn over and put them all in their areas, the sky, the earth, what's in the picture. And I don't know, I came up a little girl. I think I've told y'all that. Miss Josephine had her own card table and beautiful little light stand, and that was what to do, unless you were paying attention to the black and white TV in the room. What to do was to help my grandmother find these pieces in her puzzle, because after the puzzle was done, it would be something that she and I put together. And that's a time like this to study what are the pieces in your puzzle. How do you feel about putting those pieces together? Are you intimidated by it? Does it trigger your fears or your sense of, I'm not able, it's too many pieces, oh, I don't know, it's going to make me just sit here for hours trying to find one piece? Yeah, that's life. It does. Sometimes there's one missing piece that's sitting right in front of us. As the old people would say, if it was a snake, it would have bit you. But it'd be sitting right there in plain sight. And yet you could be sitting there an hour or two before you actually realize that it's the piece you've been looking for. So with me this morning, I have my dear friend, Victoria. And you heard me talk about Victoria because Victoria is the name that if anybody said, what are you? Are you a Queen Victoria? I said, I could be, because my daddy's name was Victor and he wanted to name me. And so Victoria showed up in my life, as many people do, like Earth Mama, who's videotaping us. She came in through MySpace, one end of the world and another end of the world. But when destinies are supposed to meet at this intersection, they do. And this, my friend, my soulmate, who you don't be deceived by the person sitting in front of you. I guess we saw each other's souls. And you know what? I want you to say that story that you told me just this morning. We've been friends like 2 or 3 years now. And you were just telling me about a piece that I don't really have the memory of, which is what went through your body as you saw me walking into something. You said I was walking in the evening, speaking into the gathering of young people at Firefly. So Victoria, my friend and my sister, be welcome and tell us that story. Because when I heard it, I went, wow, how does that feel when soulmates recognize one another?
Okay, hello everybody. I'm glad to be here. Sangoma and I was at Earth Skills, and it was my very first one, and it was the first night, the introductory fire. And here strikes this woman, tall, thin, with a very strong voice. She was a bit angry that night. There was a confrontation going on, and she wanted to make sure everybody understood what was the problem. And she strode down to the fire and the shadows, and I heard her voice, and I said, that woman I have to meet. She is part of me. She is part of my journey, and we will be on a journey together. I knew I had to, and I spent the whole weekend in her classes and by her fire, speaking with her and getting to know her. And since then, we've become closer and closer and realized that we know each other in previous lives. We have been together. I am sure of that. And even though our colors are a little different in this lifetime, mine comes from the African also. And so we're connected like that too. So yes.
I'm so glad to have you here, because I say all the time in these, I say, now I could tell you, but you just have to go by my word. But to hear you actually say that is your experience of what happens when ancient souls that have done many lifetimes already together and are connected some kind of way, and we still don't know how. 3 years in, and we keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. Now we're talking about going to Cuba, girl, and doing a little, little tango kind of thing. Or we could wind up in Morocco, and over there, ain't no telling. It's Victor and Victoria. And, it's for my end of it, I remember her, and I remember her as being like this neat, interesting person. And I was like, because my remembrance of you in your person as you presented to me was, I certainly wondered who my father had set in front of me as Victoria. That I wondered. And then I got it, and I was like, oh, she's kind of a gypsy. Whoa, she's kind of Romanian. And I could feel all that ancestry. I didn't pick up on the Dahomey. I did not until you came to Oyotunji and had that roots reading. And I'm sure you might have not been as surprised as I was, let alone the chief, bless his heart, and he's in heaven now. And that even happened. Like if I had to say what was the most powerful reading that my friend of 30 years did in my presence before he left the earth, it was you. It was you.
Well, there is something else that you don't know about that I really haven't spoken to you about. My connection with you is my spiritual name, I've been told through a vision, is Medusa. Medusa, though, is what the patriarchy of the Romans changed the real essence of the goddess that came from Africa. And when I did research on it, I was led to find out her name is Metu Sa, Metu, separate word S-A. And I have incorporated that instead of Medusa, it is Metusa. So I was given the African goddess's name in a vision. So there's even more connections here.
Absolutely. I can remember the old Los Valencia, as they call it. This is when movie theaters had like fish ponds and stuff in the lobby, okay? So unlike the movies of today. And my mother took my brother and I, when we still lived in New York, to see the Clash of Tysons. and Medusa was very much in that. And I thought, who is that with all the friggin' snakes in her head?
It changed her.
Yeah, it so powerfully struck me as an image. But again, I think when images go in and we're very young like that, like this morning, the card I pulled here, and I said to you, the Villa, the shapeshifter from the goddess deck, and it had that horse, and I said, well, Pegasus has been with me again since the Clash of Titans. And there are just always signs and symbols, I think, that go by. What we're learning now is the world is consciously awakening, is some of us are learning to pay more attention to these signs and symbols, and some of us are not quite there yet. They're not quite there yet, but I'm so thankful to have you drop in and drop by. And I was as you know, studying and saying like, okay, why? It's great you're here, but usually when you and I come together, we are anchoring some kind of movement between the gates of either where we've been, and for you, you've been on a journey, you've been traveling around, and people say, how's that possible? There's a pandemic going on. And so, we're talking a little bit about, we've got tinctures, we've got medicines. You just don't know. We have no fear. Yes, we can, if necessary, if we feel that need to enclose our essence, be masked. And if not, like we're here together in my home in Georgia, we're friends. We know what we're doing to hold the balance of our health. We trust and completely know that with one another. And I think that's a really good thing if you want to speak to that for a minute for people that are trying to figure it out, because they're beat over the head, as you said, with all this, you're not doing the right thing, you're not social distanced, or you're not this. Speak about being healthy in your own.
Well, the thing is I am very aware that a lot of people are scared. And I do not want them to be scared of me or feel that they can't be around me because of the disease. So in my travels, I have gloves in my car. I have at least the minimum 3 masks to wear. I have diaper wipes that is good enough to clean a little baby's, it can clean my hands if I didn't put the gloves on and I got gas. I mean, I do everything like this so that I can be around friends and people and not have them feel scared to be around me. And I can tell you for a fact, I have been traveling through all of coronavirus, and everybody I've been around, and they have been sick people, old people, young people, babies. I have checked in all the time. Not one person has even gotten the sniffles after my visit. So I am confident I am doing whatever's the best thing. I am not scared myself, but to make sure no one else is scared around me, I have been extra careful and have not gotten sick. And so I feel good. Like I come here and I know where Sangoma's been. She knows what I've been doing, and we feel confident that we're not going to hurt each other or pass on anything or make each other sick. And so I feel confident, and I'm going to eventually write about my travels during coronavirus, because it's COVID. It's you go to different states and down the road to different towns, and it's so different from one place to the other. After 3 weeks in Arizona and New Mexico that I nearly was all the time with a mask on, I drove into Texas and went to a gas station, put my gloves on, put my mask on, got out, and not one person had on anything. It was like I felt like zoo. I went into a different time zone. What happened? The world changed. I went from one place to another. It's completely different.
That completely happened when I was locked down in Louisiana, because here we are in the closed thing, nobody coming and going from the house. And so when we got in the car for them to drive me, from New Orleans back across here, soon as we got to the rest stop in Mississippi, same thing. We're all up. And you go in, not a soul, no one, not the employees cleaning the rest stop, not anyone else in the rest stop. Was like, what pandemic? What are you talking about? And that was for Mississippi and Alabama. And then when you got into Georgia, you got back to it because Atlanta at that point was in a way up, and so you had half and half.
Well, Atlanta and Georgia are two different things.
Yeah,
Atlanta and the rest of Georgia are two different.
Yeah,
I'm in Georgia, right outside of Jacksonville area. And the numbers are average. It exists, the COVID, but it's not going crazy with anybody. And everybody, we're careful, but it's not going I go into the food store and about half the people do not have a mask on. But the numbers are not jumping. They're not, people are being careful. They're not going, somebody's not going in sick and without a mask or something on. They're not exposing other people to, if they think they are, they're distancing, and we're being careful, but not scared careful. And it seems to be working from around my area. There's very low numbers. So what we should do, I just do what the people that are scared want me to do, so that they don't get scared around me.
Right. That's what we do,
because I care about them and how they feel, and want to be able to be with them. And so that's what I do.
So I've got two primary questions, because you and I could hang out talking forever and ever, and we're not going to do it. This is going to be just a little video. But here you are at my house, maybe 10 days away from All Hallows, or what I love, and I probably will watch the movie Coco again, because I just love that feeling. I say it all the time. You've heard me say it many a times in my teachings. The agreements are between the living, the dead, and those waiting to be born. And both of us having pulled different cards, and that's what we do. We talk back and forth of what lessons we're in. I want to ask you, when you come out the other side, meaning like November 3rd, like right at the edge of the election, watching the world go into whatever it has to do to spin to its next place. If I could ask you, and I know because we've talked that you can't pinpoint the wisdom you would like to have on that other side of that passage, but I guess...
You're talking more the political thing too?
And both, that's what I'm asking you. It's like to go into the spiritual walk where we ourselves are trying, as you said this morning, if I could just listen deeper, if you could just teach me how to hear and negotiate what all is coming in, because the information's coming in right now. And I think it is for all of us. And I'm asking you personally, what's the best thing that you could hope to gain from whatever your walk is into All Hallows Eve and through that election and on to the next side? Because you're already off to going to visit family for November, for Thanksgiving. And what headset, what mindset do you hope to be in by that time?
I hope more people are in my mindset. The election to me is, our politics, human politics, is a little blip in the scheme of the universe. Either way, to me, both sides are as corrupt and bad as each other. I don't care about either one of them. And whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And we have no, right now, control over it. Let the freaking thing happen. I'm not going to kill myself over this. I don't get upset about it. I have too many other things in my life I need to concentrate on. And the politics of the moment, I don't give a darn about. I'm just hoping that as the election goes past, people can stop being so obsessively angry. Take a breath, everybody. Your anger is what's making this all so terrible, what's happening. And the anger is just resonating all around us and is making everything worse. Take a deep breath and get rid of your anger, and then go into the future and fix or work with whatever happens after this election. That's what I want. I'm doing. And I hope others, because the anger around us from the election, I've seen friends of mine completely, nearly have heart attacks talking about it, and blood pressure going. I hate to see it. How can an election do this to people?
Oh, it's not really the election. That's what they say is the Band-Aid on the broken leg. Whatever it takes. Yeah, whatever it takes, and I guess because I look from out here at Mars and the planetary and going up against Saturn and Capricorn, things that bring us down to the ground. What are the facts? Does the math add up? And in many people's lives who were just, painting the icing on top of the cake for years, shopping at Walmart for years. Didn't matter to them at all. They went from check to check or whatever, Christmas to Christmas, and life is good. And then, yeah, all the ugly and all the nasty came up, and you know, some people, I appreciate your ability to be in a neutral place politically, you know, and say, well, whatever, you know, this too shall pass. But there are some people already, right? No Obamacare, or they're in debt for the rest of their lives, and they buried somebody with COVID, you know what I mean? And it's just compounded, and they lost a job, and they don't have money to pay their bills, you know? And so we know these other people that, to a degree, the election affects, not so much about who wins or loses, but what is it we make up our mind to do to change our reality? You know, I heard that this morning on Morning Joe. You know, I listened to the real early morning news. And so, of course, the endless echo of how do we find ourselves? It was President Obama, as a matter of fact, who was speaking in Philadelphia yesterday. Like, you know, okay, so we lived through the folks that thought maybe the reality show billionaire business guy was a good idea. And now we find that this is not the show, but it damn sure is our reality. And if we are in charge of our reality, then something has to change. And we each have a part in that change. So
it's you and I. At our age, we're close to exactly the same age. We've gone through presidents and depressions in the economy, up, down. One president, we've gone. Sometimes it's easy to find jobs. Sometimes it isn't easy to find a job. The older we get, it's even harder to get a job. And when I was young, paying bills, you know, with a young marriage and a new baby, and up and down, that is life.
It is.
It comes from in here. What we put out is what we get back. And if we're just angry and mad, nothing good's going to come to us.
Exactly.
It has to be in here. Whatever happens on the outside of the politics or the economy, if here goes out loving and with equilibrium and putting out, you get back. Even if it's a bad economy, you're going to be able to find a job and be able to make the payments. If what you understand what I'm saying?
I do. Tracy and I were talking about this just yesterday about another dear sister of ours on this beautiful land with all these herbs and things she grows and has a certain apothecary. And at this time that everyone else in her house has lost their job, husband, son, my first question was, well, yeah, let's just, as women, network her medicines for colds, and you see all the medicines you and I have between us, where she could make a little money. Maybe she won't pay her, you know, her major bills, but she'll put food on her table because the trade is good. And so we do realize our resiliency. So I'm going to invite you, because we are going to close it up. And I just want to say some of the things that we're talking about are coming in our Green Song Changemaker series. And look for it. One of the first people is Byron Ballard. If you don't know who Byron is, you should know. And it was like, I think her book, the last book that I had, she has another new one out now. It's like Earth Tower or something like that. But it's like the fall of all these parts. And whether you call it the climate change, or whether you call it the fall of the patriarchy, or whether you call it whatever, the Piscean age is closing out. And by December 21st, the Aquarian age will be here. So if, losing 220,000 people in less than 8 months is the indication of what we have to tread, the waters we have to tread through this time in order to come face to face with our own detachment. What were the things we were attached to previously, or the people we were attached to previously, that now is going to be rearranged. Lots of people are in the pain. And I heard that as you were speaking, like, what are you willing to do to walk through your pain in order to find your joy? And I think that's a question that I want to ask continually whenever I go into, it's a virtual gathering, this green song thing every Saturday night. And it starts somewhere here. I think right as that, this next blue moon ebbs, it's like right on that first Saturday, maybe even in All Hallows Eve or the very next weekend, right in that All Souls season. And it'll be around. It's on my Instagram. You'll see the parts go by. And then, of course, the last 6 weeks of the year, we're going to do, as we have for the last 5 years, Season of the Raven. So I'm enjoying the fact that we did this conversation, and we'll be able to look at it on the YouTube channel and go, yeah, man, that was some of the potent stuff that we had to talk about as we were moving.
There's something I'd like to add.
Yeah.
Yeah, asking what coming up here. There was something was done a while back I read about, that many women and men got together and they put out love at a city that they lived around that had very high, killing rates, shooting rates, fighting. And they put out love. That's what they threw out there. And you know what? In the next 6 months, it went down by less than 20% of everything. The fighting was down, the killings were down. What love is the answer. This political time is coming up, and instead of everybody being angry and screaming and being mad, take a breath and put out love. And if all of us do that, the best thing that can happen, whatever is best for us and for the world, will happen during this election. If we can all put out the best feelings, what we need and what we want to see, it will happen. But it won't happen if all we put out is anger. We have to put out love out of our hearts and put that out to everybody. That's my
I was thinking we're going to close right here. And I was thinking, what a beautiful place to close. It's on Ho'oponopono. And so I was thinking, as you were saying, that this intention of this community was to put it out like that. But the anger, the sacred rage is so hot. It's so fiery. That if I were going to put out to the people watching this conversation this morning, I would say, try this in the mirror. Try Ho'oponopono to the reflection in the mirror to say, I love you.
I love you.
I forgive you.
Forgive you.
I'm sorry if I've offended you. And let it wash away. Let anything that has been ill between us, and you're talking to your outer self is talking to your inner self, let anything that's been in between us just melt.
Talking to the universe.
And talking to the universe, just let it melt away. Let love, we speak a lot about lighthouses. We didn't in a certain way, but in a certain way we did speak about that light that's amplified through our houses. And the way it gets brighter and brighter and brighter is not to allow any darkness in it. I said it to you early this morning over our morning coffee. In the light, there is no darkness at all. How can I be so sure of my steady foot in such a chaotic time in the world? It's because in the light, there is no darkness at all. Yesterday, I said it to some youngins up there on the Wildwood Path. It was a little elder gathering of, what does it mean to be an elder? And I was like, I'm a baby elder. I'm claiming it. You know what I mean? But ultimately, my passage in these 6+ decades has shown me that moving toward the sacred is about never shutting it or disconnecting from the light. The light that you get more and more and more of, whether it's mentors or books or tarot cards or wherever it comes into you from, don't sit it down. Don't allow it to shut off. And I say to people all the time, but they have deeper and deeper meanings. If you bother to collect the wood and start a fire, why in the heck would you walk off and let it go out? The thing to do is to hang around and tend the fire. So Victoria, I'm so glad you came through, and love on your travels. And I hope the 2020 dancing in Cuba, girlfriend, yes, baby, having a little bit of a party for a while. We deserve it, girl. We've been through some things.
Yes, we do.
And to all of you out there, I don't know. It's a Toomsboro Black Girl Magic Weekend coming up for me at the end of the month. And that's a whole nother season such as this. The transition from, one tribe and community in Oyatunji into another one in Toomsboro. And that is a story all unto itself. We're going to save it for another time, though. Remember to stay in the oneness and the wholeness and at peace with yourself. Just be at peace because you can. You don't have to feed into, as Victoria said, you don't have to feed into the anger or the hate or any of that. Peace lives within. Love, blessings, aloha.
Aloha.
Mm-hmm.